Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Lawyer Interviews. I am your host, Jeff Dillon. Today we have special guest Jed McClure. Before we get started, I would like to read a note from our sponsors. Today's Lawyer Interviews is being sponsored by the team at Law TJIC and Select America's Legal Elite in Media. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Lawyer Interviews. I am your host, Jeff Dillon. Thank you for joining us. Today we have special guest Jedediah McClure. He is a lawyer, entrepreneur, owns his own law firm, Superness. Jedediah, thanks so much for joining us. Real quick, why don't you give us a quick introduction? Tell us about yourself.
Sure. I'm an estate planning attorney, which really means I focus on business formation and business succession, estate planning. I live in the Midwest with my beautiful, wonderful, amazing wife, and I've got two kids that are home and one that's finishing up college right now.
Okay, great. Family man and Midwestern superstar, I suppose, because I've looking on your website, you have a lot of accolades, it seems. And also, I have to get it out of the way so I don't forget, you have an appearance on Dateline. Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
As my wife is in the other room binging Dateline as we speak instead of working, can you tell me about that? Because I am very curious.
Yeah, actually, it's how I got into law to begin with. So it's a little bit of a story. If you got the time.
So is this is the legal origin story?
This is the origin story.
So the origin story starts with you on Dateline.
It leads into me being on Dateline.
All right, this might be the best story we've heard so far.
All right,
I won't interrupt anymore. Please go ahead.
All right. So I spent my whole life being an entrepreneur. I've started multiple multi-million-dollar businesses. When I was growing up, I had no interest in being an attorney, even though my mother, all of my relatives thought I should be an attorney because I really like to argue. I had no interest in being an attorney. I was a business person. In 2011, I started a trucking company in North Dakota. The company was doing incredibly well. I partnered with a couple of different guys. The oil boom was happening. We literally, in 10 months' time, we started with one truck and trailer. And within 10 months, we were operating 115 trucks and trailers. We were billing about $5 million a month. Things were great. That is until my business partner decided that he wanted all of it for himself. So he embezzled somewhere between $12 million and $16 million. We don't really know how much because we hired a third-party accounting firm to make sure there was no funny business going on, and they were involved in the fraud. So a lot of money got stolen. When I discovered what was happening, I confronted my business partner, and in response, he hired a hitman to kill everybody. So
out of here.
Yeah, I know this is a movie. In fact, that's why I got on Dateline. So two people were murdered. There were two separate attempts on my life by two different hitmen. Obviously, neither one was successful. And I spent about a year gathering as much evidence as I could and working with Homeland Security kind of behind the scenes until they eventually were able to make a case. First, they made a fraud case. And they were able to arrest him on the fraud case, but then that converted to the murder case, and he was eventually convicted of 2 counts of murder, murder for hire, a whole slew of things. So he now has 2 life sentences and 120 years. So he's not going anywhere.
Oh my God. Okay. So this is supposed to be like a very boring interview just about like, yeah, I like to argue. I went to law school. We're not ready for this kind of intensity. The people murdered, were they close to you?
No, they really weren't. And it turned out one of them that was murdered was actually one of my business partner's close friends, who was in some way involved. We still don't know what extent he was involved, but then the two of them got into a dispute, and so he had him killed first. Mm-hmm. And the other was a front man that he was using to help embezzle and hide equipment and hide stuff from us. And he had that person killed. And
so
then
these hits were part of a cover-up.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
And you were also intending to be silenced to get away with this.
Yeah, so there's a hitman in Chicago that was actually paid and given my address to come to my home. And we don't know if he actually did. When the Homeland Security actually tracked him down, he claimed that he took the money, he had no intention of doing anything. But of course, that's what he's going to say when there's no evidence other than what he confesses to, you know?
Right.
So we don't know what he actually intended to do, but he was paid. And then there was a second person in North Dakota that was also enlisted to
multiple hitmen. So there are all these, like you see this stuff. You don't even think that you can do it. So how do you find a hitman?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have no idea.
No,
I personally have no idea, but
Okay.
Apparently my business partner did.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this could be really long. I'm sure we should watch this Dateline episode, anyone listening to this. But really quick, the business partner, a close friend of yours, was this a betrayal also like of your, did you feel heartbroken by this?
No. So what happened is I had a business previously that I had sold. And so I was looking for something new to do.
Hmm.
One of the guys I worked with in my previous business said, hey, I know this guy. He's starting this trucking business up in North Dakota. You should talk with him.
Hmm.
So I met with him, talked with him. He told me what he was trying to do. I spent about 3 months going up to North Dakota, researching everything that was going on before I decided, yes, this is actually a really good business venture. I sat down with him. We wrote out the business plan. I felt really good about the guy. In fact, it's kind of scary to say, but he and I had a lot in common. Like it almost felt like we were kindred souls. Like we hit it off immediately, and we built this thriving business.
Hmm.
But turns out from the get-go, his whole plan was something totally alternative. He planned from the get-go to steal as much as he could.
Make a good business and then steal and then kill. Wow. Sorry you went through that. Seems like it was very formative in your where you are today. So we can continue on this path now. Once you've survived this and after he's found guilty and everything like that, what happens next?
So just really quick, you mentioned Dateline. Dateline actually did not do a very good job covering the story. They covered about 20% of it, and they misled the public in a lot of stuff that they said. In fact, they portrayed his wife as this innocent victim because at the end, he tried to kill her as well. So they portrayed her as a victim. She was just as much a part of the fraud. In fact, it wouldn't have happened without her.
Wow. Okay.
So she wasn't innocent in any way, shape, or form. Investigation Discovery did a much better storytelling. They were much more true to the facts, but theirs isn't as long. It's only an hour. But they did a good job. So if you really want to see what happened or mostly what happened, they're a much better representation.
Okay. So is Dateline, they get everything else right or?
I don't know. I wouldn't
Okay.
say. They went on a lot of tangents that were unnecessary and
I mean, this seems interesting enough. I don't know why you have to embellish anything, but
agreed.
I was bracing myself. You're like, they didn't get the story right. It's gonna be like, yeah, this guy Jed, he ended up, maybe he's the real killer. I don't know, like what, I didn't know where
I
you
don't
were
even
going with
appear in
that.
the Dateline story.
Oh, you didn't even listen.
No,
Okay.
I don't even appear in it. I mean, like, as in, like, they didn't even mention me once. They couldn't, because if they mention me, then they have to actually tell my story, and my story was everything against James and his wife. So they can't portray her as a victim if they tell my story. So they completely left me out.
I'm sorry to hear that. Name the correct one to watch again so we can.
Investigation Discovery.
Investigation Discovery.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
In fact, I think it's called Blood and Oil, I think is the episode, or Oil and Blood, something to that effect.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, that sounds good. So, wow. Yeah, you seem pretty well adjusted for someone who, I don't know if you're locked in a bunker right now because it looks like an office. So, it seems like you're secure with yourself and well handled. So, yeah, anyway, continue on to how you've become a lawyer from there.
Yeah, so through that whole process, financially, I kind of lost everything. I lost 1.7 million out of pocket. The business completely folded.
Say that number again.
1.7 million out of pocket.
Million. Okay. Yeah.
Million. The business completely folded. The equipment disappeared. The vehicles disappeared. We never recovered any of it. So it came to a point where I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. My reputation was burned in North Dakota because it was tied to James. So, and plus everything, just what happened so negatively there, I wanted out of that area. So I was trying to figure out what to do next. I had a friend that called me. He was from Arizona, and he called me. He told me about one of his friends that had just invested in this gold import company from Sierra Leone. He invested $70,000, was about to invest $2.1 million, and he was going to 5 times his money when the gold imported to the U.S. And he's telling me this, and something just didn't ring true about it. Mm-hmm. And so I asked him. I said, "Hey, do you mind? Can you get your friend on the phone? Do you mind if I talk with him?" He's like, no, that's fine. So he gets him on the phone. We have this 3-way call, and I start asking him some questions. And the guy is super excited. He's telling me all about this investment and all the money he's going to make. And I asked if I could if you would mind if I looked over his paperwork. And he was like, oh, no problem. So he emails it over to me. And I spent 2 days contacted the embassy in Sierra Leone. I did a bunch of research, and I proved without question that it was all a fraud. It was completely a fraud. The import paperwork was all forged. It was all a fraud.
Wow.
So of course I told him. The guy was very upset. He lost the 70,000. Fortunately, he didn't lose the 2.1 million. But after that happened, I was thinking that, after I had that conversation with my friend and his friend, I was thinking, oh no, I would really like to do something. It felt good to do that.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of a knack for it.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to do something like that. And I was thinking, as I'm driving, I'm thinking, what kind of credentials would I need if I wanted to do something like that? And immediately I thought, well, I should go to law school. So then I thought, okay, is there a law school even close by? So I literally pulled over into a McDonald's parking lot, and I pull out my cell phone. I'm kind of Googling law firms. And it turns out that NIU, which is 19 minutes from my house, so like 12 miles away, has a law school.
Okay.
And it turns out I was literally down the street from the law school.
Oh, okay.
So I just walked down to the law school. I went into their admissions office. I asked them what it would take to become a law student. And the admissions person told me, well, today is the last day to take the LSAT. And of course, you have to take the LSAT to apply. And this is in May about. So, but if you sign up to take the LSAT, you can take it in 3 weeks. And then you can apply. And we could actually, if you get in, you could start in August.
Wow.
Now, this is the end of May that this conversation is happening, right? And immediately my thought was, no, this is too quick. I'm just kind of spitballing. I'm throwing stuff around, And I walked out of the office with all the paperwork, and I thought, you know what? Why not? Why not? Let's give it a shot. So I called the LSAT office. I set up, I paid the fee, and I set up to take the test. I took it a couple of weeks later. I got the application for the law school. I filled it out. I got some recommendations. Sometime about the second week of July, first or second week of July, I get a call from that admissions person from NIU, congratulating me that I was admitted to law school.
Wow.
My LSAT had come back. I hadn't even gotten my LSAT back yet. Apparently the school got it before I did. And they were giving me a full scholarship.
Oh, amazing. So,
because that was the other issue was, okay, now, even if I get into law school, how do I pay for it?
Yeah.
So that answered that. So I went to law school. I focused on business law, on property, on estate planning. I, for 2 years, was a GA at the business school, to the business law course at the business school. When I graduated from law school, I actually taught as a professor. I taught that course before starting my own firm.
Yeah.
And here I am.
Jedediah, I got to say, this is the most antithetical lawyer origin story there is. There was no pre-planning. There was no freaking out. There was no type A competitiveness, any of that. You were the anti-lawyer becoming a lawyer, with like the most risk positive person I've ever heard becoming a lawyer. And I mean, you're kind of a jerk. I don't like you. You didn't study enough for the LSAT. You didn't, sweat over 50 different schools that you needed to go to. And then here you are. But kidding aside, this seems very on brand with, how you're a risk taker as a business person, then kind of becoming into this. So right now, tell me how that leads the types, the type of law that you're interested in, the type of experiences that you had. You now go into estate planning. Is this for businesses or for people's personal lives?
For both. For both.
Okay.
In fact, I often encompass both parts. I work with a lot of small businesses. So a lot of what I do is look at what is their structuring. Usually they can structure better to reduce their risks, to take advantage of tax breaks or benefits that they don't realize they're missing out on. Yeah. We work on succession planning because that's surprisingly lacking in almost every business that I look at.
Yep.
There's no succession. There's no end game that's in sight. It's just this is what I'm doing now, and we'll see how long it works. So we work on a lot of succession planning, and then of course that translates into personal life. What's going on with your personal life? Is there someone that are there documents and things in place in case something happens to you? Of course, what happens to your business? What happens to your stuff when you pass away? Growing up, I had there was a guy that went to my church that had this experience. I can't remember if he had a stroke or if he was in a car accident, but the guy had a thriving business that was worth about $2 million. He did some kind of construction. This thing happened. I think it was a car crash, and he was in a coma for several months. And in his business, he was the only person that had access to the bank accounts. He was the only person that communicated with the clients. He was the person that ran everything. And even though he had, 20 employees, nobody knew what to do because he was gone. Nobody had authority to do anything because he was in a coma. And even his wife, bless her heart, there's things she could have done, but she really just believed he was going to wake up and fix everything, and he didn't. They lost the business. I believe they lost their home. When he woke up, he had to learn how to talk again, how to walk again. Like, it was terrible stuff, and nothing was in place to protect against that. Mm-hmm. And so that's really helped drive my focus in my business, because protection is a big thing for me. Yeah. So two things that I focus on, and I'm actually launching 2 products at the end of this year, right in time for Christmas. One is a children's protection program, and the other is a small business protection program. Mm-hmm. So for the small business, it's really, it's a DIY type of program that walks you through creating your standard procedures. It identifies the legal documents that you need so that somebody can actually take actions, can access accounts, can do things if you're not there. It provides tools for succession planning. Of course, it opens the door for them to come back to me to say, hey, how do I create this buy-sell agreement? Or how do I do these other legal things? But it gives them the initial tools that they need to really protect their business in case something happens to the small business owner.
So is this like a video program with the courses that you click through, or?
It may evolve into that. Really, it's mostly a number of templates with instructions. Okay. Explanations of here's what this does and here's why you want it, and here's the document. Here's a sample of it completed so that you can see what it looks like. But here's how you answer it.
And you're going to be selling that to how would you sell it?
I'm just going to sell that directly through my website.
Okay. Very, very cool. So people will find first your website, then see that product that you offer, and then ideally engage you for more specific legal services.
Correct.
Is the idea. Very good. Yeah, we talked to a lot of people running their own firms, and it's cool picking up on different strategies of bringing in clients, and it seems like putting out information is a pretty common thing. Big law firms. I work for a firm. They put out, here's our review on the latest regulatory changes, blah, blah, blah. This is what this means. You have people with, putting out instructional videos on TikTok and Instagram. Like, this is how this stuff happens. So, like, this is yet another and very interesting, sounds effective, and best of luck with you to that. So the name of your website before we forget.
Sure. It's Supernus Law. So SUPERNUS LAW.
And what is Supernus?
Supernus actually is Latin for superior. That's kind of my guiding principle, that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it better than anybody else and anything else out there. Okay. You had mentioned that you didn't see the competitive element, by way of my law school. To be honest, I was incredibly competitive. I was in the top 10%. I was always top of my class in any course I took. I was highly competitive when it came to that. Especially as I started taking business law courses. I was very dissatisfied with business law courses, and I said, what I really need is an MBA. So I enrolled in the MBA program as well while going to law school. So at nights I was taking MBA courses. Because again, I'm highly competitive. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it the best I possibly can.
I got it. And you just named your firm The Best.
Exactly.
Which would be come find us at thebestfirm.com, which people probably Google all the time.
That's actually a great name. I'm going to look and see if that's actually there. The Best.
It's not. Yeah, just we'll come. We're the best. No, I mean, obviously we all have an edge, but the competitiveness, I could see that, and it's definitely driving you. It's just an interesting point though on getting people to focus on succession for their businesses. I think I've experienced working with clients when they're starting up businesses, they're very excited about their current program, how they're gonna split up the money. It's very hard to get people to focus on the inevitable decline and death that all humans must face. People do not like to look at their own mortality or the end of their business. So is there, are you working with people who are building a business and then you talk about your succession stuff, or do you have to get referred, or like, how do you work that part in to people who are starting up companies?
So usually that requires a conversation.
Okay.
And a big part of that involves the business plan, because everyone's familiar with the business plan, even though 99% of people don't do a business plan.
Right.
Everyone's familiar with the idea of the business plan to find out if your business is actually viable, and what you need to be doing, the strategies that differentiate you. So I sit down with clients and we talk about those kinds of things, especially differentiation. But then I always talk with them like, now, what happens if you get sick? What happens if you can't work? What happens to your business? We need to make plans for that. Because what if your business takes off? You have plans for it. You know what you want it to do. What happens if you're not the one that's able to actually do it? So we need to have that conversation. Second, if your business thrives, what happens when you're ready to get out? Are you going to just do this until you die? Is there an end game? And I actually, when I started doing this, I prompted a speech that I've given at the business school at NIU a couple times, called the Secret Success Formula. And the idea behind the Secret Success Formula is you have to have a plan. You have to know where you're going, because you're never going to get there. And I kind of give this analogy. Imagine you walk out of your door in the morning, you get into your car and you start driving, and you're driving out of DeKalb, Illinois. What's the possibility you're going to end up in Disney World? Well, little to none if you have no intention of getting there, right? And maybe you find your way there over a long period of time, but that takes money, that takes trial and error. There's all kinds of stuff that happens in that process. But it's so much better if you actually have a plan of where you want to be.
Yeah.
Then you start with that plan. You kind of work backwards in how you get there. And the reality is, I can probably count one hand the number of business people I've talked to that have an end plan. So we start talking, what is it you want to be? Where do you want to be in 5 years, in 10 years? Do you want to do this forever? Or, do you have other things that you want to do? And this is the means to end, so we have that kind of conversation, and that ultimately leads into, well, how do you make those things a reality?
Got it. And do people ever push back when you're like, you should probably put in this clause about in case you guys want to assassinate each other? And then they're like, do we really need this? I don't see why we would. And then you're like, look, I'm telling you, you never know what's going to
happen. It's rare, but
this is for a good cause. Yeah. If you get murdered by assassination and then, prong A, by your partner, then we will.
And your partner does not get your business.
Yeah. Or he can't, unless his wife also kills your wife. I don't know. There's probably a whole bunch of stuff. Because I'm just thinking that it makes sense in a way. It's like you've seen a business disaster. You've seen probably the worst breakdown in business relations I've ever heard of. And I'm sure that gives you a perspective on how to foresee or just plan for the future of how something that seems great in the beginning can go south later on. And if that wasn't already your business pitch, I'm sure it will be now. I just thought of that for you, but I'm sure it is.
Well, and even if it's not so extreme, obviously my story is very extreme, but the reality is markets change, products change.
Yeah.
If people's interests change, and something that may be very successful today, a year from now may be a complete dead end. So what do you do with your business at that point where your talents, your skills have come to an end, where maybe a business partner that was very valuable today is no longer valuable a year from now? How do you address that? Those are all things that are uncomfortable conversations, but need to happen.
Got it. So before we run out of time here, you're very busy, obviously working, running your firm, everything like that. You have a family. What is your go-to non-work de-stressor, something that makes you human outside of being a legal robot?
Yeah, that's important. So I play soccer on the weekends. I've done this for the last roughly decade. I have a core group that we get together and we play for 2 hours every Saturday. So that's kind of my big stress reliever. But I also I work out at 5:30 every morning. I kind of start my day that way, and it's a stress reliever. It starts the day just on the right foot.
Mhm.
I've already feel like I've accomplished something by the time that I even step into the office. It's just a great way to start the day.
Got it. Have you always been an first thing in the morning workout person?
No, that's actually something that just started earlier this year. I've always been an early morning person.
Okay.
Waking up at 5 is that's just the way it is.
Hmm.
I wake up, I'm ready to go generally.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sure you sleep
uh,
with one eye open anyway.
yeah, actually,
Sorry to be pressing on this trauma. I just find it very entertaining for this purpose. You're like, here's the one thing you shouldn't bring up again and again and again, but I can't help
no, it's fine. My poor kids, they don't know what real like normal living is like because they've grown up in a house where we have everything on lockdown. There's alarms throughout the house. We have motion sensors in the basement and the ground floor. So when we go to bed, the bedrooms are upstairs. We
Yeah.
turn on the motion sensors. You can't even go down the stairs without the alarm going off.
Oh, really? Well,
Oh, really?
good. I mean, yeah. I mean, and also you sound like Batman waking up training for some fight every morning
That's right.
just in case something happens. But you've been watching the World Cup and everything. Are you a big soccer fan?
I am. Yeah, yeah. I have been watching it.
Okay. Um,
You?
yeah, this is my one time every 4 years to care about it.
Do you have any predictions?
I think it seems like Brazil is for sure is a foregone conclusion, but I'll just keep rooting for someone like Morocco or something, see how far they go.
They're doing fantastic. I'm very
Yeah.
impressed.
Yep.
Yeah.
They get to take revenge on the whole Iberian Peninsula now, going from Spain to Portugal. So that's cool.
Yeah.
A
Yeah. It'll
little.
be cool. I love the underdog. I love the underdog. Although
Yeah.
I'm rooting for Argentina. I used to live in Argentina. I consider Argentina kind of my home away from home.
Really?
So I'm rooting that they win another cup, that Messi wins his first World Cup. I'm kind of rooting for them.
That's a nice story. Real quick, what were you in Argentina for?
So I was in Argentina originally for a church trip, and then I went and studied in Argentina.
Okay. Uh, this is pre-law, post-law.
Oh yeah, when I was 19, 20.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Part of like that's awesome. Yeah, being abroad, great experience. Good to get some perspective on everything. Arden's that's cool. That's a bucket list place for me for sure. Um, but
It's beautiful.
yeah, I bet. All right, well, we are just about out of time here. Very fascinating stuff, Jedediah. Really appreciate definitely the highest stakes, most interesting interview we've had so far. Again, one more time, people can find you at supernislaw.com. And do you have any other methods of people finding you?
Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I'm on Twitter, kind of. I have an account and I have someone that posts stuff, but I'm personally, I don't really.
Not a big social media person.
Uh,
And
it's kind of,
what
yeah, it depends on social media. It's kind of a cesspool, but
yes,
if you Google my name, you'll find me very easily.
at Jedediah McClure. And then your home address and the code to your alarm systems.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna
For
keep
those of us
those
curious.
under lock and key.
Oh, almost got him. Okay, see, you're smart. Most people give that away. At the end of the that's how we can tell. It was really great. It was really great meeting you, Jedediah. Thank you so much for taking the time and telling us your story. It's really, really, really genuinely amazing stuff. And you say it really well. You're a very compelling storyteller.
Well, thank you, Jeff. And thank you for having me. It's been a
Yeah,
pleasure.
absolutely. All right. Well, take care. It was great meeting you. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Take
Have a
care.
good one. Again, thank you everyone for watching today's episode of Lawyer Interviews. Again, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Lawtegic and Select America's Legal Elite in Media. Connect with Lawtegic for custom, innovative, and disruptive branding solutions to accelerate lawyer/law firm authority, grow six-figure practices, and aid access to justice.